This is the English version of the presentation held as part of the conference Technosphere versus Biosphere in Zagreb on September 11, 2021. Some information about topics and presenters. I would like to start my presentation talking about our environment where we live. We know that it is the biosphere, which consists of the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. We live in that space and we are affecting it. So we are part of it and we influence it. Practically, we are doing it by use of technology. Throughout history, man has been developing technology, and we know that today, practically, we have soared into space with the help of technological solutions. So, as a result, we shape nature, exploit it, and unfortunately generate waste. Throughout time, as a very brief reminder, we had a pre-industrial age that lasted until the middle of the 18th century, followed by the first industrial revolution, the second and the third. Now we are in the time which could be called the fourth industrial revolution. Functionally speaking, the technology started with stone carving. At that time, it was already known that getting hit by a stone can be painful and even dangerous. As it continued to develop to the nuclear age, we have realized the dangers associated with that technology, and today we are exposed to high intensity of electromagnetic radiation. We cannot see electromagnetic radiation, but we can feel it. Also, another important area is nanotechnology, where we enter into the sphere of the invisible tiny particles, a billionth of a meter in size. Who drives the development of technology? Well, whoever has the reason. What are possible reasons? It could be control, power, profit, it could be anything. When it comes to the military and military aspects, I have singled out a drawing from a US Air Force military document dating back to 1996 that discusses the possibility and various aspects of influencing the weather by use of technology. The number 1 indicates someone deciding what is to be achieved, and the number 2 is the operational part, showing a team in the operational center that manages the entire system. The number 3 shows that it is a global system, on the ground and in space with the focus on communications. Information is collected in the central part and used for further activities. How does it work? Here, under number 4 and 5, 2 aspects are highlighted. It is electromagnetic radiation under the number 4 and use of the planes under the number 5. How does it work, according to the document? Natural processes in the atmosphere can be weakened or intensified, but also completely new situations can be created. From techniques: heating and electrical charging of the atmosphere, creating lightning, vertical clouds, adding energy to space at the right time and in the right place, stimulating the instability of the atmosphere, influencing the ionosphere and its properties to creating an artificial ionosphere. Using technologies, very sophisticated technologies, microwaves, lasers, nanotechnology. Some else from the document. What does nanotechnology offer? It says that it offers the ability to create simulated weather. Also, a cloud or several clouds of microscopic computer particles which communicate with each other and with a larger control system. So, it is about complex systems which are modeled and managed. In the same way, the atmospheric takeoff and navigation capabilities in 3 dimensions are interconnected, indicating the complexity of the entire solution. They could also provide an electrical potential difference, which would not exist otherwise, to achieve precisely targeted and timed lightning strikes. So, it is about the production of lightning, and we know what consequences can be in the atmosphere and to life. Finally, the psychological aspects are highlighted. What can be found in our environment? These are photos taken in Zagreb. So, images of the sky during the last couple of years. Airplanes emit exhaust gases during flight that contain water vapor, and in certain weather conditions, at low temperatures, it condenses and forms ice crystals. A situation labeled as chemical traces can hardly be related to something natural or something that regularly occurs in the environment. The following photo was taken in the evening, when the atmosphere was already quite dusty, and at that moment there were 7 airplanes in the sky intensively spraying the atmosphere. And finally, one of the possible consequences is the haze that we can often see in the sky. Briefly about artificial electromagnetic radiation. Today we have numerous artificial sources of electromagnetic radiation in the environment. They can be on the surface of the Earth, in our immediate environment, or in the atmosphere. It should be pointed out here that today's artificial electromagnetic radiation is more than 1 quintillion times stronger than originally, naturally. So 1 quintillion times. For illustration purposes, these are examples of sources of electromagnetic radiation used to influence the atmosphere. A word associated with atmospheric impact is geoengineering, which refers to a series of deliberate and large-scale interventions in the Earth's climate system using technology to change climate conditions. We have mentioned electromagnetism. We know that in the environment we have electromagnetic waves through which devices communicate, in this case in the telecommunication systems through the base station. However, what is important to point out here is that these waves also pass through obstacles through matter, in this case through the walls, but also through our bodies. As a result of our observations, we made 3 comparative measurements in Zagreb and its immediate surroundings. The first measurement was carried out north of Zagreb in a forest, the second in the suburb in the western part of the city, and the third in Vrbani district near the point center. In the lower part of the screen, we can see a table with recommendations for acceptable levels of radiation given by independent experts of various profiles. I suggest that we focus on the sound to hear the sound interpretation of the measurement results. You can hear the birds and only the occasional tick, tick. It's about a communication. That was the suburb, and now we are going to the city, to the point center, to see what was measured there. It is important to note here that the measured values have exceeded values of extreme concern. Why is this a problem? Because we are electrical and electromagnetic beings. We know that certain electrical signals in our bodies can be measured, such as electrocardiogram tests, such as electroencephalogram or electromyography. On the right, we see what one cycle of the electrocardiogram signal looks like. What happens when we have electromagnetic radiation in our environment? First of all, environmental signals interfere with our body signals. Interference is the addition of signals mixing with each other, affecting each other, and causing health problems. To illustrate, this is a list of health problems related to electromagnetic radiation. There is almost no body part or functionality that is not affected with electromagnetic radiation. And now about air quality specifically here in Zagreb. This is data taken from a Swiss website that monitors air quality worldwide. What often happens in Croatia and Zagreb is that small particles and their concentration, especially the size of 2.5 microns, often exceeds the levels that are considered acceptable. On this day, it was recommended to close the windows, not to go outside, to refrain from outdoor activities because the air is unhealthy. Here we have an interesting situation. I have recorded this on October 31, 2020 in the evening. It was a full moon night, and what the photo shows looks more like chemical traces than natural clouds. The next morning, around 7 o'clock, some kind of dust could be seen falling from the sky, and an hour and a half after that, fog appeared. I believe that all of us who live in Zagreb remember that it lasted continuously for 2, maybe even 3 months, and we were forced to inhale its content. Here we also have an unusual and I would say illogical situation. These are recordings from the Meteor Service. This is the service of the International Meteorological Organization in the period when the African heat wave was announced in 2017. Areas with extremely high temperatures are marked in red. First it turned red and the temperature rose in Poland, and then Slovakia, and then in the south of Croatia. The next day we had a network of these red areas, and what is interesting, we had a discontinuity of these areas. In the end, everything merged into one hot area. Altogether, very unusual development of events for a heat wave coming from Africa. The health issues are interesting to me, especially malignant diseases and health aspects related to malignant diseases, and so is this analysis. In 2020, with the first 5 countries in terms of cancer mortality in Europe, Slovakia, Poland, Cyprus, Hungary, and Croatia. Of those 5 countries, 4 are located according to some kind of key and regularity. And when we compare it with the slide showing the hot areas, we see a geographical coincidence. I took these pictures in 2017 in my garden. The bottom left is a photo taken on June 10, and I have recognized this as the intense seeding the atmosphere, i.e. the beginning of intense spraying. That spraying lasted for several days. On the second day after spraying, I have noticed changes on the leaves of Aronia plant. On the third day, June 13, the leaves turned red and changed color, and after that a good part of the leaves have fallen off. In this context, let's recall the words of Henry Kissinger. He said, "Who controls food controls people. Who controls energy controls continents. Who controls money controls the whole world." So, in this context, food can be interesting as an indirect weapon. What world we live in? A short summary. We live in a world of polluted air, polluted water, contaminated soil. These are our atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere from the beginning of this presentation. There are also unstable weather conditions, reduced availability of water, and the same applies to food. In the end, something to ask ourselves. All what we have mentioned, is it all connected and in what way? Thank you for your attention.